The letter arrived on a drizzly Tuesday afternoon, slipping through the cracked mailbox of Mia's modest apartment like a forgotten whisper. She sat at the kitchen table, her fingers stained from wiping down counters all morning, her mind already cluttered with overdue bills and unanswered calls. The envelope was heavy, its cream color worn and edges softened by time. Mia hesitated before breaking the seal, the name printed on the front stirring a flicker of curiosity she rarely indulged anymore. "Dear Miss Harris," the letter began, "we regret to inform you of the passing of your late uncle, Harold Jensen. As per his will, you are the sole inheritor of his property located at 87 Willow Creek Road." Her eyes darted to the next line, which listed the asset. A dilapidated trailer, its value assessed at a mere $5. Mia blinked, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. $5, she muttered under her breath. The weight of the letter felt heavier than the words themselves. Her friends at the diner had always teased her about her luck, or lack thereof, but this news felt like the final straw. She imagined their smirks, the whispered jokes, the pitying glances. To them, a rundown trailer out in the middle of nowhere was nothing but junk, a punchline in the ongoing saga of Mia's misfortunes. That evening, she gathered with her closest friends, the worn wooden table of the Magnolia Diner their usual refuge. As Mia unfolded the letter, the room filled with a chorus of disbelief and derision. "You've got to be kidding," Jenna scoffed, stirring her coffee more aggressively than necessary. "A trailer? Harold was your uncle? I thought he was some mysterious recluse with a cabin in the woods, not some guy who leaves behind a heap of junk." Mia bit her lip, the sting of their skepticism sharper than she expected. "It's not just any trailer," she said quietly, though even she wasn't sure she believed it yet. "He left it to me, so it has to mean something." "Meaning something doesn't pay the rent, Mia," Carlos said, pushing his plate away. "This isn't a legacy. It's a joke." Her heart sank as laughter bubbled around the table, not cruel but weary, the kind born from years of watching her struggle. They didn't see the woman who worked double shifts, the nights spent cradling her son while he fought off fevers, the endless battle to keep the lights on and food on the table. Mia's fingers curled around the edge of the letter as she excused herself, stepping outside into the chill of the evening. She pressed the paper to her chest, feeling the roughness of the worn envelope against her skin. "This is all I get," she whispered. "A trailer worth $5. The next morning, the sky was a slate gray, threatening rain as Mia climbed into her aging truck. She had made a decision. If the trailer was truly hers, she would see it with her own eyes. Maybe then she could begin to make sense of what felt like a cruel joke from a man she barely knew. The drive to Willow Creek Road was longer than she remembered, the winding dirt path flanked by towering pines that brushed the sky. The further she went, the more the city's noise faded, replaced by the quiet hum of nature and the distant call of birds. Her son Eli sat beside her in the passenger seat, his small hands clutching a worn stuffed bear. When they reached the spot marked in the letter, Mia's breath caught. There, half swallowed by overgrown weeds and leaning precariously to one side, stood the trailer, its faded yellow paint peeled like old scabs, windows clouded with grime, and the door hung ajar, creaking softly with every gust of wind. "It looks like it's about to fall apart," Eli whispered, gripping her hand tightly. Mia nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She stepped closer, the ground crunching beneath her boots. The air smelled of damp earth and rust, a scent both foreign and oddly comforting. As she pushed the door open, a cloud of dust swirled around her, settling on forgotten remnants of Harold's life. Old furniture draped in sheets, a rusted lantern, and stacks of yellowed newspapers. The trailer was cold and hollow, but it was hers. Back home, Mia sat at the kitchen table, the letter now accompanied by a sheaf of legal papers and a small, faded photograph of Harold. A solitary man with kind eyes, standing beside the very trailer she had seen. She couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the decay lay something more, something her uncle had left for her to find. But the weight of reality pressed down. Her job at the diner barely covered rent, Eli's school supplies were overdue, and the trailer was nothing more than a burden. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jenna. "So what's the plan? Sell the estate for scrap?" Mia stared at the screen, the mockery cutting deeper than she wanted to admit. Yet, somewhere beneath the surface, a spark of determination flickered. "No," she typed back slowly. "I'm going to clean it up. See what's really there. The following days blurred into a rhythm of exhaustion and small victories. Mia cleared brush around the trailer, fixed broken windows with scavenged wood, and swept layers of dirt from the floor. Eli helped where he could, his laughter a rare light in the otherwise grim task. Neighbors passed by, most offering pitying looks or outright avoidance. Rumors traveled fast in small towns, and soon enough, the story of the struggling single mom trying to salvage a worthless trailer became the talk of Willow Creek. One afternoon, while prying loose a warped floorboard, Mia's crowbar struck something solid beneath the dirt. Heart pounding, she knelt and began to dig, revealing a small metal box, rusted but intact. Her breath caught as she pried it open, revealing a collection of worn maps, yellowed with age, and a stack of documents covered in neat, careful handwriting. The papers hinted at the land's history, marked with notations about resources and boundaries Mia didn't understand. The discovery sent a thrill through her, a whisper of possibility. That evening, as the rain tapped against the window, Mia spread the maps across the kitchen table, tracing the lines with trembling fingers. The trailer, she realized, was not just a forgotten relic. It sat on a patch of land whose secrets had been hidden, waiting for her to uncover them. Her friend's laughter echoed in her mind, but now it sounded distant, irrelevant. "This is just the beginning," Mia whispered, a fierce hope rising within her. Maybe this isn't junk after all. Days slipped by as Mia immersed herself in the fragile world she'd uncovered beneath the trailer's floorboards. The maps, brittle at the edges and faded from years of neglect, lay sprawled across the kitchen table like a puzzle begging to be solved. Each line and symbol teased her with whispered promises of something more than the rundown property she had first dismissed. The documents, handwritten notes in precise cursive, detailed surveys, mineral assessments, and correspondence from Harold Jensen himself. As Mia read, her pulse quickened. The land wasn't just a forgotten plot. It was a ledger of hidden value, a secret her uncle had guarded in silence. One afternoon, after Eli had finished his homework and settled with his worn teddy bear in the living room, Mia sat hunched over the maps. Her fingers traced the jagged edges of the creek that wound near the trailer, the contours of hills and clusters of trees that marked the landscape. Small notations hinted at veins of minerals beneath the soil, something called rare earth elements. A phrase Mia had never heard before but sounded important. Her phone buzzed on the table, and she glanced at the screen. Carlos. She hesitated but answered. "Hey Carlos." "Hey Mia. How's the treasure hunt going?" His tone was light, but there was an undertone of curiosity. Mia chuckled. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. I found old maps and papers like some kind of secret history of the land." Carlos whistled softly. "Sounds like a movie. You thinking about digging for gold now?" "Not gold," she said, eyes still on the papers. "Something called rare earth elements. Apparently they're important for electronics and tech. I don't really know much, but it looks like the land might be worth more than the trailer itself." Silence followed for a moment. "You need help figuring it out? I know a guy works with geology stuff. Could put you in touch." Mia's heart lifted. "Would you? That'd be amazing." The next morning, she found herself driving toward the edge of town to meet Daniel, a geologist Carlos had described as a bit eccentric but brilliant. She felt a mixture of nerves and hope, a fragile optimism she hadn't allowed herself in years. Daniel's office was cluttered with rock samples, maps pinned to walls, and books stacked in precarious piles. He greeted Mia with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, his hands stained with dust from fieldwork. "So you say your uncle left you some land with rare earth elements?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Mia nodded, spreading the maps and documents across his desk. "I found these hidden under the floorboards of the trailer. I don't know much about minerals or geology, but these papers suggest there's something valuable here." Daniel leaned in, inspecting the maps closely. "Your uncle was thorough. These notations indicate surveys done over several years. Rare earth elements are critical for modern technology, smartphones, electric cars, renewable energy. If your land has deposits, it could be significant." Mia swallowed, the weight of possibility sinking in. "So what should I do?" "First, we need to verify the claims. I can arrange to take some soil and rock samples. If the results are promising, you might have something worth protecting." For the first time in months, Mia felt a flicker of control over her future. Daniel's expertise offered a path forward, a chance to turn the derision she faced into respect. Back at the trailer, Mia began preparing for the site visit. She cleared more brush, patched broken windows with salvaged wood, and swept away dust from corners where shadows lingered. Eli helped eagerly, his small hands eager to make the trailer more like home. The day Daniel arrived, the sky was a brilliant blue, the sun casting golden light over the overgrown landscape. He carried a sturdy backpack filled with tools, a small drill and containers for samples. Together, they traversed the land, Daniel explaining the process of sampling and testing as they worked. Mia listened intently, absorbing each detail, her mind racing with the possibilities. When Daniel drilled into the earth near the creek, Mia watched the soil collected in the container, a tangible piece of the mystery her uncle had left behind. She felt a sense of connection, not just to the land but to Harold, whose careful notes and quiet vigilance had preserved this secret. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mia sat with Eli on the porch of the trailer. The air was cool, scented with pine and earth. She pulled the maps close, tracing the lines once more. "I think we're onto something, Eli," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Something that could change everything." Days later, Daniel called with news that sent a shiver down Mia's spine. The preliminary analysis confirmed the presence of rare earth elements in significant quantities. The land was far more valuable than anyone had imagined. But with that knowledge came a new wave of uncertainty. Mia knew she wasn't the only one who would be interested in the property now. The hidden value beneath the trailer had shifted her inheritance from a forgotten relic to a potential prize. At the diner, the conversations changed. Her friends no longer laughed. Instead, their eyes held a mix of awe and caution. Jenna approached her one evening, voice low. "Be careful, Mia. You don't want to get in over your head." "I know," Mia replied, determination hardening her tone. "But I'm not giving up on this. Not now." Late nights found her poring over documents, researching rare earth elements, and drafting plans. She contacted local officials and environmental groups, seeking advice and allies. The trailer, once a symbol of derision, had become a beacon of hope, a foundation on which she could build a new life. Yet, beneath her growing confidence, a shadow lingered. The knowledge that others might come knocking, seeking to claim what was beneath her feet, pressed heavily on her mind. But for now, Mia focused on the tangible, the maps, the samples, the possibility. The journey from discovery to understanding had begun, and with it, a flicker of a future she had long dared not imagine. The day Daniel called with the lab results, Mia was folding Eli's worn clothes in the cramped bedroom of their apartment. The sun filtered weakly through the threadbare curtains, casting long shadows across the room. Her phone vibrated on the dresser, screen flashing Daniel's name. "Heart-pounding," she answered. "Mia, the samples are in," he said, voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of excitement. "The land beneath the trailer has significant deposits of rare earth elements. This isn't just a small patch. It's extensive, and the concentration is higher than I expected." Mia sank onto the edge of the bed, clutching the phone as if it anchored her to this moment. "So, what does that mean?" "It means your uncle's land isn't just some forgotten plot out in the woods. It's a valuable resource, and people in the mining and tech industries will be interested. You need to be prepared for that." Her mind raced, the weight of his words settling like a stone in her chest. The trailer, the maps, the hidden documents, it had all been a puzzle. Now the picture was clear, and it was more complicated than she'd imagined. That evening, Mia sat at the kitchen table, papers and notes spread out before her like a battlefield. The glow of the single lamp cast harsh light over her determined face. Eli played quietly nearby, his small fingers tracing patterns on a coloring book. The news of the mineral deposits had spread quietly through local channels, and already she could sense eyes watching her. There was a tension in the air, an unspoken message that the land was no longer hers alone. That night, as the house grew silent, Mia found herself scrolling through online articles about rare earth elements. How critical they were to everything from smartphones to electric cars, how demand was soaring, and how corporations fought fiercely over deposits. A knock at the door startled her, and she opened it to find Carlos standing on the porch, concern etched into his face. "You all right?" he asked, stepping inside as she nodded. "I am now," she replied, the fight igniting within her. But this is bigger than I thought. This land could change everything, but I'm not sure I'm ready for what's coming. Carlos frowned, sinking into the worn armchair. You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out. Lawyers, experts, whatever it takes. Days later, Daniel returned, this time with equipment and a small team to conduct a thorough survey. Mia watched as they moved across the land, taking measurements, collecting samples, and mapping the terrain with precision. One afternoon, Daniel pulled Mia aside, a map in hand. Look here, he said, pointing to a marked area near the creek. This is where the highest concentration is. If this property was developed responsibly, it could attract serious investment. Mia's fingers trembled as she traced the spot. But it's also fragile land. The creek runs through it, and there's wildlife, deer, birds. I don't want to destroy the place. Daniel nodded. Responsible mining means balancing extraction with conservation. There are methods to minimize impact, but it requires careful planning and oversight. Mia's thoughts drifted to Harold, her uncle, who had left these clues and warnings in his careful notes. He had known the value and the risks. She felt a surge of respect for the man she barely knew. Back home, the reality of the discovery pressed upon her. The trailer, once a symbol of neglect, was now the epicenter of something much larger. She found herself fielding calls from curious neighbors, local officials, and even strangers claiming interest. One afternoon, a man in a tailored suit arrived, flashing a badge from a mining company. He introduced himself as Mark Hastings, a representative eager to discuss potential partnerships. Mia listened carefully as he outlined offers of buyouts and joint ventures, his tone smooth but insistent. We see great potential here, Ms. Harris, he said. With our resources, we can develop the land efficiently and profitably. You'd benefit, and the community would thrive. But as he spoke, Mia sensed the undertow of pressure, the implication that resistance would be futile. That night, she sat with her thoughts heavy, Eli asleep in her arms. The decision ahead was daunting. Accepting the offer could mean financial security, but at what cost? Determined to understand her options, Mia sought legal counsel. With Carlos's help, she connected with a lawyer experienced in land rights and environmental law. The meetings were overwhelming, filled with jargon and warnings, but also with strategies to protect her interests. She learned that ownership meant responsibilities but also rights. She could negotiate terms, impose restrictions, and require environmental assessments before any development. Armed with knowledge, Mia returned to the land, walking beneath the towering pines, feeling the cool breeze and the soft rustle of leaves. This land was more than minerals and maps. It was a legacy, a home, a future for Eli. The coming weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, site visits, and phone calls. Mia found herself speaking with geologists, environmentalists, and community leaders. She began to envision a plan that balanced development with preservation, growth with stewardship. Her confidence grew, tempered by caution. The road ahead would be difficult, with powerful forces eager to claim the land's riches. But Mia was no longer the woman who had doubted her inheritance. She was a guardian of something precious, ready to fight for it. Late one evening, as she closed the maps and prepared for bed, Mia whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." The lines on the paper were no longer mystery. They were the first steps on a journey that would change her life forever. The first time the letter arrived, Mia barely glanced at it, tossing it onto the kitchen counter with the other bills and junk mail. But when the second envelope came, thicker and stamped with the unmistakable logo of Pteridine Minerals, her heart tightened. She sat at the worn table, Eli curled beside her, and broke the seal with trembling fingers. The letter was formal, its tone polite but firm. It outlined an offer, an unsolicited proposal to purchase the land at Willow Creek for a price well above market value. The company promised swift negotiations, minimal hassle, and reassurances that their operations would bring jobs and prosperity to the community. Mia read the letter twice, then a third time. The words blurred as doubt and fear tangled inside her. The money could fix the cracks in their life, the rent owed, Eli's school supplies, the ever-mounting expenses. But the land was more than a ledger of debts and dollars. It was her uncle's legacy, a puzzle she was only beginning to understand. The next morning, a sleek black SUV rolled up the dirt road leading to the trailer. Out stepped two men in sharp suits, their polished shoes crunching the gravel with practiced ease. They introduced themselves as representatives of Teradyne Minerals, eager to discuss the purchase in person. Mia met them outside the trailer, her gaze steady despite the knot tightening in her stomach. The men smiled with the kind of practiced charm that felt rehearsed, their words smooth as silk. "We understand the value of your property, Miss Harris," one said, extending a glossy brochure. "Our company is prepared to offer you a generous sum. We believe this can be a mutually beneficial arrangement." Mia glanced at the brochure. Images of gleaming mining equipment, happy workers and thriving towns painted a picture far removed from the overgrown land she knew. "I appreciate the offer," Mia replied carefully, "but I need time to consider." The men exchanged glances, their smiles faltering just enough to reveal the underlying pressure. "We hope you'll see the opportunity here," the other said. "Our interest is sincere, but opportunities like this don't last." After their departure, the silence of the trailer felt heavier, the walls closing in with unspoken threats. Mia knew this was just the beginning. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Phone calls at odd hours, unexpected visits from company representatives, and whispers in the town that Teradyne was ready to move quickly. The community, once indifferent or skeptical, now watched Mia with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. At the diner, conversations shifted. Some neighbors urged her to sell, tempted by the promise of economic growth. Others warned of corporate greed and environmental destruction. One afternoon, Jenna cornered Mia in the break room, her eyes filled with concern. "Mia, this isn't just about the land. Teradyne has a reputation. They push people out, destroy the environment and leave messes behind. You have to be careful." Mia nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down. "I know. That's why I'm fighting." With Carlos's help, Mia began to gather allies, local environmentalists, concerned citizens, and legal experts who understood the stakes. They formed a small but determined coalition, united by a shared desire to protect the land and the community. Together, they uncovered troubling evidence, reports of spills, safety violations, and hastily approved permits tied to Teradyne's operations elsewhere. The company's promises of prosperity rang hollow against the backdrop of environmental damage and community upheaval. One evening, Mia stood before a crowded town hall meeting, her voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in her chest. "This land is more than a commodity," she told the assembled crowd. "It's our home, our legacy. We can't allow it to be destroyed for short-term gain. We need transparency, oversight, and a voice in what happens here." The room buzzed with murmurs, some supportive, others skeptical. But for the first time, Mia felt the tide turning. The fight was far from over. Legal battles loomed, and the company's resources dwarfed their own. But armed with evidence, community support, and an unyielding resolve, Mia prepared to stand her ground. Late one night, as rain hammered against the windows, Mia pored over documents, environmental assessments, legal briefs, and letters from supporters. Her hands ached from the endless paperwork, but her spirit remained unbroken. Eli stirred in the next room, and she paused to listen to his soft breathing. This fight wasn't just for her. It was for him, for the future she dreamed of giving him. The dawn broke with a fragile light, illuminating the path ahead. Mia knew the challenges would only grow, but so would her determination. She was no longer just the woman who inherited a rundown trailer. She was a protector, a fighter, and a voice for the land that had quietly waited for her to claim it. The courtroom was silent save for the shuffling of papers and the soft murmur of voices hushed in anticipation. Mia sat stiffly in the front row, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. The weight of weeks spent battling Teradyne Minerals and their legal team was etched into the lines of her face. Across the room, the company's representatives exchanged confident glances, their suits crisp and their smiles carefully measured. Her lawyer, Margaret Emerson, leaned in and whispered, "Stay strong, Mia. We have the evidence, and the community is behind you." Mia nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. This was more than a legal dispute. It was a fight for the land, for her uncle's legacy, and for the future she envisioned for Eli. The judge entered, her stern gaze sweeping the room before settling on Mia. "We are here to determine rightful ownership and the terms under which the land at Willow Creek may be developed," she announced. "Let us proceed." The courtroom became a stage for a complex battle. Teradyne's lawyers argued the company's expertise and resources would bring economic growth and jobs. They downplayed environmental concerns, painting Mia's resistance as obstructionist. But when Margaret presented the coalition's findings, detailed environmental reports, documented safety violations from Teradyne's other sites, and testimonies from local residents, the tone shifted. The courtroom absorbed the weight of the evidence, the stories of a community at risk, and the passion of a woman fighting to protect her inheritance. As the proceedings continued, Mia felt a growing sense of empowerment. The maps and documents her uncle had left her, once dismissed as relics, now formed the backbone of her case. Her knowledge of the land's significance, combined with the community's support, lent her voice a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Outside the courthouse, supporters gathered, holding signs and sharing stories of the land's importance. Their presence was a reminder that this was not just Mia's fight, it was theirs. Days of testimony and legal wrangling passed, each moment a test of endurance. But as the final arguments concluded, the judge called for a recess to deliberate. Mia stepped outside into the crisp air, the tension palpable. Carlos approached, offering a reassuring smile. "You did good, Mia. No matter what happens, you showed them the heart behind the land." Even Eli, clutching her hand, seemed to sense the significance of the moment. When the judge returned, the room fell silent once again. She cleared her throat, unfolding the carefully prepared ruling. After reviewing the evidence, this court recognizes Ms. Harris as the rightful owner of the Willow Creek property, the judge declared. Furthermore, any development on the land must adhere to stringent environmental protections and involve community oversight to ensure responsible stewardship. A wave of relief and triumph washed over Mia as murmurs of approval echoed through the courtroom. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes as she looked toward Eli, who beamed up at her. The victory was not just legal, it was personal. It affirmed Mia's resilience and the power of standing up for one's beliefs against overwhelming odds. In the days that followed, the community rallied around Mia. Their support a balm to the scars left by the battle. Plans were drawn for sustainable development, balancing economic opportunity with conservation. Mia found herself at the center of a movement, one that honored her uncle's legacy and forged a new path forward. Late one evening, as she tucked Eli into bed, she whispered, "We're going to be okay. This land, this home, it's ours." The journey had been arduous, but Mia's faith in herself and her community had carried her through. The courtroom victory marked a new beginning, a chance to build a future defined not by scarcity, but by hope and stewardship. The morning sun spilled golden light across the freshly tilled earth of Willow Creek, casting long shadows over the community center where Mia stood surrounded by neighbors, friends, and families whose lives had intertwined with the land's fate. The air buzzed with quiet excitement, a collective breath held in anticipation of what was to come. A ceremony marking not just a victory, but a beginning. Mia's gaze swept over the crowd, settling on Eli, whose small hand found hers, his eyes wide with pride. The months of struggle, the sleepless nights poring over maps and legal documents, the fierce battles with Teradyne Minerals, all had led to this moment. The land that had been dismissed as worthless was now a beacon of hope and resilience. At the podium, Mia cleared her throat, heart pounding yet steady. "When I first inherited this land, it felt like a burden, a rundown trailer and overgrown fields that no one wanted. But thanks to the support of this community, the guidance of experts, and the strength I found within myself, Willow Creek has become so much more." Applause rippled through the crowd, faces shining with shared triumph. Today we celebrate the establishment of the Willow Creek Foundation, a trust dedicated to supporting single mothers, promoting environmental education, and fostering sustainable practices that honor both our heritage and future. Mia's voice wavered as she continued. "This land is a legacy from my uncle Harold Jensen, who believed in protecting what was precious. Through the foundation we will ensure that his vision lives on, not just for us, but for generations to come." As the ceremony progressed, local children planted saplings along the edge of the property, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. Volunteers handed out brochures detailing educational programs, workshops, and community events designed to empower those who, like Mia, had once faced uncertainty and doubt. Later, beneath a canopy of stars, Mia stood outside the restored trailer, now transformed into a welcoming visitor center and learning hub. Eli nestled against her side, his small voice breaking the comfortable silence. "Mom, do you think Uncle Harold would be proud?" Mia smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "I think he already is. And so am I." The journey from scorned inheritor to empowered landowner had not been easy. It had demanded courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that something good could rise from what others discarded. The foundation was more than an organization. It was a testament to the power of community, perseverance, and hope. As the crowd dispersed, Mia lingered, eyes tracing the horizon where the first light of dawn had kissed the earth. She thought of the future, of Eli's laughter echoing through the trees, of workshops teaching young minds about the environment, of single mothers finding strength and support. The dollar her uncle had left behind, once a symbol of dismissal, had unlocked a legacy far richer than money. It had opened the door to a life rebuilt, a community thriving, and a future forged by those who dared to believe. Taking Eli's hand, Mia whispered, "This is just the beginning." And as they walked toward the glowing lights of the community center, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, rooted in the land, bound by hope, and carried forward by love. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.